In October of 2020, I first discovered what I call paleo story stones, or paleo story stone face and mammoth effigies. Dr. Michael Gramley, in his new book of Paleolithic Artifact Types of the Americas, has included story stones as an official Paleolithic artifact type. They image both mammoth imagery and human face imagery. One young or juvenile mammoth and one old mammoth, and one young face and one older face. And they're made, I found that they were made from every kind of stone on planet Earth. It didn't take me long to know that the Paleo-Indians around the world utilized every kind of stone in making these very common Paleolithic artifacts. These are the most common flaked stone Paleolithic artifacts found on planet Earth. They're out there by the trillions. They're found on every continent. I have them from every continent except Antarctica. And they date all the way back to Homo habilis, some 2 million years ago. So Homo habilis was making these 2 million years ago. Homo erectus was making them between 500,000 and 1,500,000 years ago. Neanderthals were making these from 35,000 to 450,000 years ago. Homo heidelbergensis were making these 400,000 to 700,000 years ago. And modern Homo sapiens sapiens, we've been making these since Homo sapiens came into existence, probably 250,000 plus years ago. So these are very common Paleolithic artifacts, and I observed very quickly that these are made out of every kind of stone on planet Earth. Now, these effigies were unheard of and definitely unknown until my discovery. Nobody knew about these paleo face and mammoth effigies until my discovery of October of 2020. But I also unveiled a new type of volcanic glass that had been unobserved prior to my discovery. And it was kind of mislabeled in a very vague way. It was called Andara glass. And Andara glass really could be a category of any type of colored glass. In fact, there's a lot of man-made colored glass that is simply labeled Andara glass. But these Paleolithic effigies only made in the Paleolithic time. They were not made in the Archaic period. Once the mammoth died out, this mammoth cult or mammoth worship, this worldwide tradition, had ceased after the mammoth's demise. So these effigies date from the Paleolithic period, and when you're dating these using X-ray fluorescence dating, which I had done in the geology lab of the Stephen F. Austin State University in Texas, and then Dr. Michael Gramley also performed X-ray fluorescence testing on these, and both test results confirm that this is naturally occurring glass, not man-made glass. It has no oxygen in it, and man-made glass is loaded with silicon dioxide, as are tektites, as is obsidian. But this has no oxygen, so it's different than obsidian. It's not anywhere close to obsidian. This doesn't have any oxygen in it, and obsidian is loaded with oxygen, silicon dioxide. This has no sodium in it that man-made glass would typically have as well. So the test results are clear that this is a naturally occurring volcanic glass. But when you're doing the testing, you need to make sure you're testing authentic Paleolithic artifacts that are flaked and etched. Now, this etching that we find on flake stone, including rose quartz crystal, including citrine crystal, including meteorites, including obsidian, and on and on and on, this etching and grooving and engraving on flake stone was also unobserved before my discovery. So in discovering these effigies, actually it led to a lot of other discoveries that are going to benefit geologists as well as paleontologists, and certainly anthropologists and archaeologists. This is an outstanding example of what a mammoth looked like over 12,000 years ago. This bubble in the glass, and a lot of glass has bubbles, as I think we mentioned here, tektites have bubbles, Libyan desert glass has bubbles, moldavite has bubbles in it. So a lot of nature-made glass has bubbles. This bubble is the eye of the mammoth, and this is the mature mammoth with its sweepy trunk coming down here and its hair tuft above the head. Now you'll notice this hair tuft is beautifully, beautifully engraved. That's all etching lines. That's patterned etching. It's not random. And it was made to image the hair, both the hair of the mammoth and the hair of the human faces. That's the hair tuft above the head of the mammoth with a big sweepy trunk now coming off to the left. And you can see that the perimeters of these artifacts are all worked to make the profiles of the mammoths and the faces. So that's all been pressure flaked here. This is percussion flaked across the big part of this area here. And this is all pressure flaking to make the perimeter of it to be able to observe and to be able to make them in the shapes of mammoths and human faces. And when we turn it this way, now we have the baby mammoth. This is the baby mammoth now, facing off to the right. And again, you can see some etching here. This is from Mount Shasta, California. This was dug up in Mount Shasta, California in the 1970s, and I acquired this from the woman that bought it from the finder. And they didn't know that these were artifacts when they found them. They didn't even know they were flaked and etched. All they knew was that this was some type of special glass that they had dug up on their property. That's the eye of the baby mammoth right there. It's been flaked out right there, and its baby trunk off to the right with its big hair tuft above the head. What a great image of a baby mammoth facing off to the right. Now when we hold it this way, now we have this the eye of a human face with this the nose. That's the young human face now looking off to the left. That's a great human face looking off to the left. Then we have the old face with the big droopy nose. This the eye again and the slanted forehead. That's the older face now looking off to the right. Younger face looking off to the left. And we see the hair on top of the face up here has all been patterned, etched into the stone. Those are actually grooving lines that were probably made with quartz crystal. I experimented with this glass, and quartz crystal does a good job in making these patterned etching lines, and Dr. Michael Gramley and I theorize that that's probably the tool that they use to make the etching lines. You can see how patinated the surfaces of this glass is. Of course, it's over 12,000 years old. Likely Clovis in origin. And then when we turn it this way, now we have that mammoth with this the eye of the mammoth, the bubble, the hair tuft above the head, and the big sweepy trunk that's been actually just beautifully worked along that edge, facing off to the right. Beautiful, mature mammoth there. That's exactly what a mammoth looked like over 12,000 years ago. When we hold it this way, it's really cool. This white inclusion that's actually been flaked some right there. There's been a big flake taken out of that. And then we have hair above the head that's been engraved. That is a great eye of a face with the young nose looking off to the right. That is an outstanding face right there of a young face looking off to the right. And then the older face with the big nose over here looking off to the left. Powerful looking face there as well. Just outstanding. Of course, the baby mammoth now is facing off to the left in this beautiful multicolored volcanic glass from Mount Shasta, California. So when XRF or X-ray fluorescence testing is performed on this glass, you need to make sure that it's a bona fide, authentic Paleolithic artifact that you're testing, and not simply some kind of colored glass simply labeled as Andara glass. If it's man-made modern glass simply labeled as Andara glass, then you'll get man-made glass results. You'll get results that indicate the glass is man-made. It'll be loaded with oxygen and also sodium. But this glass has no oxygen in it at all, making it totally different from obsidian, which is loaded with oxygen, silicon dioxide. It's a completely different volcanic glass from obsidian. It's a newly discovered glass that I discovered was used to make these Paleolithic effigies over 12,000 years ago. So we now know that we have a new type of volcanic glass, and this is found in areas of volcanic activity. So it comes from Java. I have a lot of specimens from Java, Indonesia. Here's one from Java, Indonesia, right here. That's a mammoth facing left. It's all been flaked around the perimeter, as you can see. This comes from Mount Shasta. I have examples from Arizona and also from China. I bought one specimen, a beautiful mammoth and face effigy from a finder in Arizona who found it in a dry volcanic creek bed. And in China, there's a video on YouTube that shows them mining this volcanic glass, not in the form of these effigies, but the raw colored glass, volcanic glass, being mined out of ancient lava flows in China. So it comes from China, it comes from Indonesia. Most of it comes from Indonesia. A vast majority of it comes from Java, Indonesia, where they're digging it out of alluvial deposits. The Mount Shasta specimens are arguably the most beautiful of all, and many of them are in the form of Clovis bifaces, Clovis cash blades. So we pretty well know that the Mount Shasta specimens are Clovis in origin. So I just wanted to share that valuable information. And in the more section underneath the video, there's a great explanation and a spreadsheet, XRF spreadsheet, that you can view all of the atomic elemental elements that are in this glass on the XRF spreadsheet that was developed by the Geology Department of Stephen F. Austin State University in Texas, testing 3 different Paleolithic artifacts, one green, one yellow, and one blue, all made out of this volcanic glass, which definitely confirms that this is not man-made glass, but in fact a new type of volcanic glass that prior to my discovery was unknown. Please enjoy that reading in the more section below this video. Another great Mount Shasta Paleo Storystone face and mammoth effigy made out of beautiful multicolored volcanic glass.